Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm going to start off with some introductions. My name is Jason, founder and CEO at a company called Forma, and I'm super excited to introduce my co-host for the session today, Annie and Sheila. We'd love to give them a chance to introduce themselves, their background, their experience. Why don't we start off in the center? Annie.
Sure. Thank you, Jason. My name is Annie Itzel. I'm the Director of Total Rewards at Oscar Health. I've been with the organization for just over 5 years and scaled the Total Reward offering in line with how we've scaled the business. We've grown immensely in the last 3 years. So really considering and looking at what our offering is to employees to ensure that it's competitive and allows flexibility to sort of meet them where they're at.
And my name is Sheila Kruger. I'm the head of not Total Rewards, no, gave up that gig. Whoosh. Head of Global Benefits at Zoom. I've been there about 3.5 years. In the time that I've been there, we've gone from a fully insured product and a pretty very basic plans to a fairly robust, very holistic benefit plan that we offer to our employees.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. Thank you both again for joining me on stage. I've been working with you both for the last couple of years, so super excited to share that experience with everybody here. And now let's get into the main topic and talk about what we're discussing today. Okay, so there are 3 important things I would love to have everybody take home as the takeaway. A lot of them are related to what we call LSAs, lifestyle spending accounts. So I'm going to start with some trends and challenges that I've been hearing from our customers across our book of business. What are some of the biggest trends that we're seeing today? We're going to go into really leveraging Sheila and Annie's experience. How can a LSA address those issues and challenges and the trends that we see on the market? Lastly, we're going to end with some tips and tricks on if you're looking to get something started, where should you look? What are the potential pitfalls? How do we make the program successful? And at the end, I have 3 really exciting resources I would love to share with everybody here in the room. And so make sure that I keep everybody here in the room till the end. Okay, so a couple things. I think everybody can recognize that over the last couple years, change is the only constant, right? Financial crisis was nearly 15 years ago, and just over the last 3 years, we've had to navigate a ton of change, right? Global pandemic, everybody working from home, inflation, now everybody returning to work, trying to navigate a hybrid working environment, and more recently, in international conflict, overturn of Roe versus Wade. There's a lot of things that's top of mind for both everybody here as benefits professionals, and also, of course, for every employee that gets involved, right? And at the same time, we're also seeing the workforce becoming a lot more diverse and a lot more distributed across the globe. Some stats I would love to share here. 1 in 4 of Americans have worked remotely through 2021. And that number is actually going to stay for the most part. It's estimated that roughly 22%, very close to that 1/4, of Americans will work remotely or hybrid through 2025. So remote work is here to stay. And also at the same time, employees are experiencing a loss in buying power. Inflation rate, probably top of mind for a lot of us here, has been above 8% for the last couple of months. And when we look at the absolute terms, the employees' wage increase has been at 5.6%, which is not bad. When we combine that with the inflation rate, employees are losing buying power, right? So what do we do? As a lot of you all amazing benefits professionals here, the instinct is to ask, how can I support my employees? Right? What kind of programs can I put in place? What kind of resources can I introduce? How can I help my employees through these challenging period? That is what we do, after all. But at the same time, there's a phenomenon called point solution fatigue, right? With every change, with every trend, with every change in our society, if we just keep on introducing more different programs, sure, the employees are going to be able to be supported with the right resources, but it gets really overwhelming. Right? How many point solutions do we need? When does it stop? And when the trend passes, it's going to be really hard to remove those point solutions. And on average, 16 hours is spent per benefits professional for every 100 employee. That's a lot of time to manage the vendors, internal communication. A lot of these things need to happen. And what do we get at the end? 5 to 20% engagement. This is what we typically see across point solutions. So at the end of the day, this is really not a win-win situation for both the employer and the employees. Right? We're trying our best as benefits professionals, but the employees are not necessarily getting the most out of the program package that we put together for them. Okay. So One last point I want to make here is, according to a recent Gartner study, agility and flexibility are the two key words when it comes to HR program design. This is across the board over the last couple of years. Agility and flexibility applies to where people work, how people work, a lot of these things. And of course, benefits, total rewards philosophy also needs to improve based on that. 74% of the surveyed HR leaders are looking to make their benefits more flexible, meeting people where they are. Right? 24% of the HR leaders is planning and to increase and improve their benefits offering. So these are the handful of trends that we're seeing today. So I want to do a quick survey here. We're talking about LSAs. Who here knows what an LSA is and feels confident about this concept? See a couple hands? Okay, probably about a third here in the room. I'll do a quick definition for everybody here, what LSA is. It is, the way that I usually like to define it, it's a very customizable spending account that requires two inputs from the employer, a budget and a set of rules that governs where and how the budget could be spent. And then we deliver that allowance, the LSA, lifestyle spending account, to the employees, so the employees can use that money, stay within the rule that we put together for them, and pick and choose benefits programs that are actually meaningful to them. So really putting the best interests of both the employers and employees in place. It's a lot of lightweight administration, virtually zero administration for the employers. At the same time, we get to offer a ton of flexibility and choice to the employee, still within, to make sure that the program aligns with the strategy of the benefits team. Really puts the best of both worlds together. So in the next session, I would love to get Annie and Sheila involved. Let's talk a little bit about what the LSA looks like at Zoom and Oscar. Okay, so we'll have to raise the first question here. Annie, we'll have to start with you. Sure. When did you first launch the LSA program, and what were the biggest challenges that you were looking to solve right out of the gate?
Sure. So when we looked at, we originally actually had a health and wellness reimbursement that was not really formalized across the organization. And there wasn't really any policy behind it as well. So we would have employees just kind of come in and say, hey, I have bought a pair of shoes. Can we submit these for health and wellness reimbursement? I have a pair of home weights. We wanted to streamline and define the health and wellness reimbursement program in line with our wellness strategy that we were rolling out. And so what was important is that we had something that was flexible for employees, could scale easily with our organization. When we implemented our health and wellness reimbursement with Jason about 3 years ago, the organization was about 500 employees. And over the last 3 years, we've scaled to 3,000. Diverse workforce across the US. So again, keeping it flexible and really meeting employees where they were at. Part of Oscar's mission as an organization is to meet members where they're at, offering affordable, accessible healthcare for all. And we certainly wanted that to align with our wellness offering for employees.
Appreciate it, Annie. Sheila, if I can pose the same question to you, how did the LSA program first get started, and what were you looking to solve?
Yeah. Well, we actually had a wellness program as well that was administered by another vendor very poorly, and we had a lot of complaints about that. And when the pandemic came, we saw an opportunity to kind of shift the focus of that. First of all, we suspended the wellness accounts because nobody could go anywhere to get any wellness, anything that we were providing. But we worked with Forma to implement our pandemic support plan. And so that LSA really became the crowning glory, I think, of our benefits globally, which was an important factor in implementing with them. We were able to turn that budget into a pandemic support plan that let us provide money to folks for all kinds of things that they might need because they were all suddenly working at home around the globe. So it provided Uber delivery for food, grocery delivery, additional childcare, which was huge, office equipment. I always joked about everybody going home to work on the worst possible chair they could ever own. And then, then we had an MSK thing that we had to deal with. But all those kinds of things that people needed just to be supported in their work from home. And so just an amazing way for us to deliver that flexibility to our employees on a global scale.
It's amazing. Sheila, if I may stay with you for a second here, fast forward, right, to right now, 2022, and almost looking out for 2023 already, what are some of the values that you continue to see from the LSA program, from you as the administrator, and also from the employee base?
And say it one more time. Sorry.
What are some of the values that you continue to see coming out of the LSA program?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a lot. And I think one of the things that is just proof in the pudding is that we did a conjoint analysis last year, and this LSA account came out as the top benefit at Zoom globally. So it is like I said, it truly is the crown jewel in our plan, because it is the one that provides the flexibility. It's global. Everybody knows about it. It's in the chat all the time. People are saying, hey, don't forget you could, get that reimbursed through Forma. So it's really been able to be one of the things that we're able to point out for retention and recruiting as well. It's been a really big point for that.
And if I can pose the same question to you, what kind of values are you continuing to see?
I mean, value on the employee side, for sure, from the flexibility standpoint. I think everybody is at a different place in their journey from a wellness perspective. But I also see value actually on the employer side. We run a very lean team, and the administration of this benefit is very easy, driven by the employee submitting a claim through the portal, and then it's handled. We had a very manual process before. So this has allowed us to offer a valuable benefit with very light administration on our side.
Appreciate that. Cool. So that was a little bit of an introduction to kind of the early version of an LSA out of Zoom and Oscar, how it has evolved over the years. I would love to maybe go a layer deeper, right? So we've been talking about LSA, Lifestyle Spending Account. What does lifestyle stand for? Right? That's actually a question that we get asked a ton. So I want to do a quick survey. Those of you who raise your hand knowing that have a firm grasp on the definition of LSA, we'll love to see you chime in here. Who here believes that wellness is included under LSA? Okay. Here's a hint. We're at a conference called Be Well. So if I put something up on the screen that's not related to this, Philip might not allow me to return next year. So that's a hint for you. Who here believes that work from home support could be part of the LSA program? Okay. Who here believes that family support could be part of the LSA program? See more hands? Great. Who here believes that rewards and team building potentially could be part of the LSA program? Great. Who here believes that it's all of the above? Okay. It really is all of the above. Okay. And actually, we would go as far to list out a couple more other categories that we often see. Today we work with a little bit over 200 customers across almost 100 different countries, 400,000 different employees. Here are some of the most commonly seen categories that we see our clients design the LSA. Okay. So lifestyle, health and wellness, emergency relief, learning and development, student loan support, new parent coaching, caregiving, the list goes on. So I'm posting this just to get the creative side going for everybody here in the room. A lot of times, people often overlook the flexibility of the LSA program for the employers. Look, it's very easy to see LSA is flexible and it promotes choice for the employees, right? That's inherent, that's in the design of the program. But again, people often don't forget it's actually really flexible for the employer too. How are you going to design a program or different programs that aligns with the benefit strategy in a way that fits into your budget, fits into your employees' needs? This is one of the most useful tools that you have in your toolkit. Okay, so we'd love to pose this question to perhaps starting with you, Sheila. Can you share with the audience here, how was the LSA program design changed over time for you?
Yeah, that was really important, and I think it continues to evolve as things have changed. I mentioned that we had, for the pandemic support plan, delivery of food and delivery of groceries. And as the country started to open up a little more, we made changes to that so that we no longer required that it be food delivery, that it could be or grocery delivery. So then we allowed the pickup. If you wanted to go to the store and pick out your own bananas, that's me, got to do it, then you could do that and you could still be reimbursed for those things. So just the flexibility of the program is really key, because you can make those changes on the fly and really within a couple of days max. you're able to make those kinds of changes. So we were able to, we've got some discounts with some of our hardware partners at Zoom, so we were able to add those things where people could get reimbursed if they wanted to buy a Poly whatever, or just any kind of hardware for their Zoom rooms and stuff like that. So just being able to make those kinds of changes as time changes and circumstances change.
Yeah. Sheila, would you be able to share perhaps a story that you've heard, one of your employees, somebody on the team? How has LSA impacted individuals?
Yeah, I mentioned the conjoint. So not only did we find out that it was the #1 benefit, but I mean, the comments from that survey were certainly very telling. I think the caregiving, the childcare additional expenses at the beginning of the pandemic were probably the most commented upon in that survey, because we had people that really did struggle with how are they going to take care of their kids. So just hearing from some of those parents about being grateful for that extra support and that extra financial support during the pandemic.
And can you share with the audience here, how has the LSA program design shifted over time to where it is today?
Sure. The employees provide a lot of feedback about what they need, and I think as the employee ecosystem has changed and evolved over the last 2 years, employees' needs have changed. So listening to our employees around what they need, and again, to Sheila's point, being able to make a change to the policy program in real time to support the employees has been extremely valuable. The employee base has expanded into many more locations in the last 2 years for us. So again, it's just anchored back to the flexibility of what we can actually offer to meet the employees' needs.
Yeah. And Annie, looking from the employee's perspective, would you be able to share a story on how has that impacted the employees who have access to this kind of program?
Very positive. I think I can't pull out a specific quote or an example, but we get positive feedback through our Slack channels to our benefits team around how easy this offering is, and how they can simply submit a claim for something to support their well-being, and it's approved. And there's really no questions about the why behind it. Again, it's extremely valuable to them with a varying demographic of employee to meet them where they're at any point in their journey.
Appreciate that. I want to double click into what Sheila and Annie just shared. Again, the flexibility for the employer in terms of plan design. 2 days ago, Annie and I were just at another event talking to a very similar topic. What does an LSA mean to you? And one of the guys in the audience shared, oh, I think about LSA as the holy grail to employee benefits program and employee choice. I tried to offer the guy a job. I don't think he's going to take it, but well put. Trying to figure out a way if he can join our marketing team. But I think that was the main idea for the LSA, right? We have, for example, over the last couple of years, we've seen customers shifting their LSA very quickly to support their employees in Ukraine who are impacted by the international conflict. We've seen our customers shifting the LSA to support employees in California and a couple of states that are impacted by the wildfire, who have to temporarily relocate. And we've seen the employers shifting their actually office budget over to support their employees when they start to become a hybrid or a fully remote workforce. We've seen customers in retail industry shifting to reward the more tenured employees to make sure that in this tight labor market, they can continue to add value to their employees and make sure that the retention stays really strong. So the takeaway here that I would like to leave with everybody is, if you think about the next year, 2023, right? The turbulence in the economy is probably top of mind for everybody here, everybody on the executive team, leadership, and also every single employee that we aim to support. So how can we make sure that we position, right, the benefit strategy and package as a whole to stay really nimble, adaptable, and be able to support employees no matter what kind of change come our way? I want to emphasize that an LSA program doesn't have to be with us, but the LSA program itself does offer that flexibility, and it is, again, one of the strongest tools that you have in the toolkit. Okay, so now in the last segment, I would love to go one layer deeper. Okay, if we've successfully convinced some of you in the room that LSA is indeed the holy grail, it's a great program that we want to put in place, what do we do from here? Right? what are some of the concrete suggestions that Annie and Sheila might have for folks on the team? How do you get started? How do we think about asking for a budget from the finance team? It's always going to be tough. And how do we think about practically how to build an LSA program that fits into your organization? Okay. So we'll love to start out with 2 questions. Let's talk about building a business case for the LSA. So Annie, we'd love to maybe start off from you. How was the business case that you brought to the leadership team when this program was first started?
Sure. In evaluating our employee offering, I wanted to take a holistic view at what we were offering and ensuring that it was aligned with what our employees valued. I wanted to make sure the money that we were putting towards each one of these programs actually spoke to that alignment. And so building the business case for this was simply around, again, in the employee choice, employees having a choice and flexibility is where they saw the most value. So we wanted to align our offering with what the employees actually value.
And any tips and tricks for the folks in this room? How do you build that business case, specifically for the finance team, right? Budgeting is always one of the biggest, if not the biggest, questions that come to mind. So how do you bring that business case forward?
I think it's taking a look, again, holistically at the spend and where the dollar's going. We just allocated dollars differently. There was no net new dollars out there, but we just wanted to make sure that every dollar was aligned in the right position. So it made sense to fund the LSA with funds from another offering that maybe wasn't getting as much utilization or that the employees didn't value as much. We just shifted those funds around to fund this. And then from a finance perspective, it's sort of like even for them. Mm-hmm.
And Sheila, we'd love to pose the same question to you.
Yeah.
What was the business case that was brought to the leadership team when the LSA program was first formed?
Yeah, we were in a little different situation because of the pandemic. It was more like, what can you do? Because we want to make this happen for the employees, and how can we make that happen? So our business case situation is more about how do we continue with this into the future. So as the pandemic winds down and we look at making another kind of paradigm shift with our LSA into a more an offering that provides our employees with more flexible benefits moving forward as opposed to pandemic support. So we're looking at adding things like long-term care insurance, pet care, tuition reimbursement, student loan repayment, all those things that we can really help folks at all the different points that they are in their lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And so our business case with the finance team has been, yes, we realize you would love to get rid of this off your books, but we have conjoint analysis that says you're going to have a mass exodus of employees if you take away their number one benefit. So that's going to be a huge part of the business case is employee satisfaction. But just being able to provide that additional flexibility for everybody and saying that if we do this, we do not have to then do contracts with a bunch of other vendors. We won't have to have that tax, that time and resource tax on our procurement team, on our tax team, on our contracting team, on all the folks that bring on those new vendors, as well as on my team to support all of those vendors. So we really, I think, we're going to be greedy and ask for more money at that point and just say, listen, this is really going to be something that is going to evolve from a really nice thing that everybody loves into truly, truly the epitome of what you can have in benefits to make this a very flexible place to work that gives you all those options.
Yeah. Sheila, specifically to the finance team, you mentioned the conjoint analysis being a very useful tool. And I thought the result was very fascinating. I'm going to share a little bit more detail on the conjoint analysis that we ran with our customers. As it turned out, Sheila's conjoint analysis results was even better. So I'm like, Sheila, if I can get access to that, perhaps we'll use that to talk about the impact for our customers. But can you tell the audience a little bit about sort of the specs around the conjoint analysis, what was included, and what was the finding?
Yeah, we did the conjoint just in the U.S. So we did like a basic survey about benefits across the board, and that's how we know that was the number one benefit. But in the U.S. specifically, because that's where our largest population is, we asked, all those great conjoint questions and what will you give up to get something else? And really and truly, in the end, those conjoint analysis will tell you for every dollar you're spending, what is the value that the employee sees in that? And that dollar that we're spending for this pandemic support, the employees are seeing that, depending on demographics, between $1.30 and $1.45. So that's a huge impact on people to feel like they're really getting this additional value from their employer. And we had over 50% of our employees take the survey, so we feel very confident in the results. And that conjoint also told us if we increased it by this amount, how would that value proposition go up for the employees? And we saw that in this particular case, the increase of funds allocated to this account would have a more value impact higher than if we increased our 401k match. So that's just such amazing data to have in your pocket when you go to finance and say, listen, this is something that people really, really value, and we need to make sure that we're maximizing our benefit from this for our employees.
Yes, appreciate you sharing that, Sheila. I still will be asking for that report result when we come out of this session. So I want to share 2 additional insights with everybody on the business case topic. We've been conducting a ton of customer interviews, voice of the customers. We want to listen more. So here are some of the findings that we found from our customer base. Some of them are global companies with over 100,000 employees. Some of them are on the smaller side, a couple hundred employees just in the US. And we wanted to have a holistic view. And surprisingly, the results are actually really close. No matter the size, no matter the scope, everybody is actually thinking about business case in a very similar fashion. So from the customer survey, 78 of our customers did not require new funding from the finance team, right? This is an interesting finding because for a long time, we thought, oh my God, we're going to spin up a brand new program called LSA. We kind of have to go to finance and ask for $20 million in budget, right? Because we want to put up a great and premium approach for the employees. That really is not the case. There are a lot of potential point solutions. The utilization rate is on the lower side. We see customers finding budget, for example, from the retreat from office real estate, for example. There are a lot of different ways that budget can actually be found with the existing pool. So again, more than 3/4 of the customers and the program dollars are coming from just existing programs. Very big, very interesting learning. And look, 70% of the actual employees are going to be using these programs, meaning that for every dollar that we put in, the employees actually have a very high utilization rate, right? So as compared to the 5 to 20% average program utilization rate that we pointed out right at the beginning, this is going to be serving a lot more employees where the perceived value is a lot higher. Okay? And the last stat I'll share here is that on average, there's roughly 85% utilization rate in terms of dollars spent. So if we put in $1,000 into the LSA for the company, we can expect 85% of it, $150 being spent at the end of the day. Okay, so I want to combine this. Remember this 85% number for a moment, because this becomes powerful when we go into the next one, which is, let's talk about perceived value. Right? This is the goal of the conjoint study is to inform us how exactly are the employees valuing the LSA program, right? We were talking a lot about LSA program as a concept, and we already know it's a great program, right? For the employer, it's flexible, helps you adapt, no more point solution fatigue, single window contact. There's a lot of great flexibility and pros for the employer. There's a lot of pros for the employees inherently in the program. More choice, more flexibility, meets people where they are. They got to access programs that are meaningful to them. It's all great. How much is that worth, right? That is the question that we set out to answer. So we ran a conjoint analysis with one of the reputable compensation research firms on the market. And we were looking to find out, if we put in $1 in an LSA, how much is that valued by the employees? Okay. So the answer is actually $1.53. I think, Sheila, it was like what, 130, 140, around that range?
Yep.
So on the low end, we're seeing, look, $1 turns into $1.30 on the lower end. On the higher end, according to our results, it's $1.53. Okay. On our list, we included, in the conjoint survey options, we included 17 different options, including additional 401k match, as Sheila mentioned, additional days of time off, and many, many different types of programs. LSA turned out to be number 2. Okay, just slightly a tad behind 401k match. So Sheila's response, as she just shared, was actually the reverse. That's why we figure using Sheila's response would have been better for us. But regardless, 2 out of 17 with 53% more in perceived value, that is huge, right? We combine that with what we saw on the last slide, 85% of the budget being used. We can actually put the two together. What does that mean? It means that for every dollar that we put into paycheck, employees view it as $1. That's the most direct, right? You're getting $1 paid out in your paycheck. $1 put into an LSA is effectively 85 cents, because 85% of it is used, but employees perceive it as $1.53. So that, when multiplied together, the ROI on perceived value that we get is actually in the 80% range. It's huge. This is, again, in a perceived value case, one of the most highly leveraged programs that an HR professional can look at today. And we're going to be conducting additional studies in 2023 as well. But I think the initial response really from the employee base is that people really value it. And again, combined with all the flexibility that surrounds an LSA program, it's one of the best tools you have. Okay. So really going into the closing here, we as a company has been operating LSA programs for the last 6 years. There's a ton of data that we collected from amazing companies like Zoom, like Oscar, like some of the logos that you see on here. And we are very passionate about what we do. We do believe that LSA provides an amazing tool for benefits professionals and also for the employees. And I mentioned I have 3 resources that I want to share with everybody. Here they are. So if you meet me at the stage earlier, if I can grab your email, if you feel like these resources could be beneficial to you, we have compiled 3 white papers that helps you build a business case. Okay, the first one is what we call a definitive guide to creating benefit spending accounts, specifically LSAs. So what this does is that it gives you information on what kind of categories do employer typically include, where are the places that you can look for budget from your existing program, what are the parameters of the program that you should consider. It gives you a very practical guide, step by step. So how do you think about an LSA? I promise 15 minutes later, it's really simple read, you're going to become an LSA expert. Okay. The second one is what we call a lifestyle spending account benchmark report. What that does is that it looks across our book of business, roughly 420,000 employees, 100 different countries, 200 different employers. How are the employers designing their LSA? And how are the employees using it, right? So when a couple slides ago, we take a look at all the different categories that could be enabled in an LSA. How frequently are those categories enabled? How frequently are those categories actually used by the employees? What are the dollars that actually gets allocated from the employer? What are the dollars that actually gets used by the employees? It's a benchmark report that helps you understand, depending on the way that you design the program, what kind of output can you expect and what kind of utilization can you expect? Okay. The last one is a fun one. The ROI of flexible benefits. It basically is the result of the conjoint analysis. So it dives into really good details on what were the 17 different benefits programs that were included, what was the research methodology, what were the questions asked, what was the output, and how can we actually bring that ROI case to the finance team to talk about this. Okay. Last thing I'll mention here. So again, if you feel like any one of these could be valuable to you, you can either go to our website, it's in the resources section, or come talk to me. We'll love to grab your email, and I'll be able to share this with you after the conference. Okay. One last takeaway, really appreciate everybody's time listening in. Like Philip mentioned right out the gate from the beginning, LSA has been a very sort of frequently discussed topic over the last 2 years. We've been around for the last 6 years. Before the name Lifestyle Spending Account was even created, started to see this name come out a lot more. So talk to us. We would love to help. We'd love to share with you any knowledge that we have on our team. And hopefully, everybody gets a chance to access this amazing program design. Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please? Yeah.
Just a question on the taxability. So are you taking advantage where a benefit is otherwise, tax advantage versus a benefit that's not tax advantage? And who's determining that upon receipt if you're doing it? And one other question around the tax. Is it tax on redemption or tax on receipt?
The first question that we always get from the employer is, how do I get budget? Once the budget comes through, that is the first question that we always get. Taxation, and how do we think about this? The answer is, it depends. It depends on the category that we include in an LSA program. So if you, again, rewind back a couple slides, remember the category list that I listed: caregiving, health and wellness, D&I. It depends on what kind of categories you decide to make eligible under the LSA. Some example could include, if it's physical wellness, it's typically considered taxable here in the US. In the EU, though, there are some certain countries under some certain provisions that could be tax-free to the employer and the employee. Okay. For example, caregiving here in the US is going to be taxable unless you put it into a dependent care flexible spending account. In some regions around the world, it could be tax-free. Okay. If we were thinking about student loan support here in the US, that could be tax-free up to, it's somewhere around like $5,000 around there. And now that, there we go. We could, thank you. We could include that in the LSA, and that could be tax-free up to that amount, for example. So it really depends. And when it comes to the responsibility, like who is responsible for determining this? Our approach is that we always come in, like Forma specifically, we always come in with a set of recommendations based on the rules that we know within the US, outside of the US. Again, we have visibility into over 200 customers' taxation profile, but we always defer to you to make the final call, right? Because there may be some different things that the accounting team, the finance team wants to come and introduce. We can absolutely work with you on that. And then ultimately, it just becomes a simple integration that we do during implementation. This is pretty basic for any vendor in the spending account space. That feeds into your payroll software, core HRIS software, and taxation should just run smoothly when the program runs by itself. Hopefully that was helpful on this topic.
Any other question?
Okay, so this sounds really exciting, not to have 20 contracts every 3 years. Sounds really appealing. That should be one of the first things that it helps all of us. But here's my question. And this is the question for both companies who are doing this, involved in this, which benefits did you keep? So for example, backup childcare and backup adult care. Those, the way they're arranged really might not fit into this. So I guess I'll ask a general question, not specific. What other benefits did you keep that you felt did not fit easily into this approach? That they're still separate?
I guess for me, it's really because we've been building our program in the time that I've been there. We haven't taken away anything that we've put in here instead. Our approach has really been more around, as we get information from the employees and we try to add benefits, we are looking to add them in the most efficient way. So again, to not have to administer them on our end, if there's a way that we can partner with Forma to do that, that's what we're going to do. So I think our best example of that is we have a caregiving vendor that approached us and wanted to do the work with us, and we did not have it in our budget to make that happen. And so I had them talk to the partnership team at Forma, and we will be launching on December 1st, where they will be available in the Forma store. So we didn't really talk about that. But Forma isn't just about reimbursement. They also have, for some of the accounts that you can set up, you could have a store. So while our pandemic support came from the wellness, we kept that in there as well, so that people could buy memberships to Calm or to places that would help them with that kind of wellness, as well as virtual gyms. All those kinds of things were in there as well. So those are actually in the Forma store. where the employee can go in and just purchase something directly. So we're partnering with this new vendor, and they will be in the store with Forma so that an employee could go in and say, hey, I'm having this event. I really need some assistance with it. It's a, life type events, marriage, divorce, birth, all those kinds of things. And I need some caregiving. I need some support around this. So they'll be able to go in there and purchase a package that will help them through that, rather than me having to do the contracting separately. So I'm looking at it now moving forward as we're coming out of the pandemic as it being a more additive for us. Not looking at taking away any of the other benefits that we have, but being able to add benefits through the Forma portal.
Yeah. I would say a similar approach. We also leverage the marketplace on Forma, and the team has been very receptive to feedback from employees to say, well, we don't have any gyms in our area. We've expanded in Florida. Can we take a look at what's in Florida? Similar to Sheila, we haven't taken anything away with regards to like childcare support or mental health support. That's still at the core. And the original anchor for our lifestyle spending account was in health and wellness. But I think now looking future state as we evolve the program to be very inclusive of what the employee needs, it'll just give us the flexibility to expand that offering within one platform as opposed to bringing on other vendors that would do something similar.
Great, thanks. And since I have the mic, I had one other question, which is, when you've done this and you put in a certain amount of dollars per employee, if something happens in the world that, let's just say we get a pandemic back and we need more, have you yet, or do you anticipate that then you would add more and add that category? I know it's a hypothetical question, but I assume that's the flexibility of this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that totally is the point of it, really, is that it is incredibly flexible. So we didn't talk about it today, but the other account that we do with Forma on the LSA side is an electric vehicle charging account. So we allow our employees to get reimbursed for their EV charging every month. That's run completely separate from the pandemic support. So, but they're in the same system, and the eligibility is all within there. So, I mean, just amazing flexibility, and again, multiple programs that are available through the LSA.
So like you probably have a commuter support. Does the LSA
Separate.
run that separate?
Separate.
So I don't, as an employee, have to use my LSA account to pay for like commuting, which I always had as a benefit. It's a separate.
Yeah, the EV
Okay.
charging is separate from, but we do have the commuter, the tax advantaged commuter accounts as
Right.
well.
Yeah,
But yeah.
got it. Okay, thanks. I appreciate the time.
I have a quick question about Sheila and Annie. You talked about the store.
Mhm.
So it's kind of taking that huge marketplace and devolving it down in a good way to the consumer. What decision support is there, if any, for someone to choose within that marketplace that has more than one provider?
It's a great question.
Or do you want to take it, Jason? It's up to
I might be
you.
able to shine some light on this one. And by the way, Philip, that's a great question, right? Because if I had the time to go in layer 3 beyond business case, this is what I will be talking about, which is once we deliver the NLSA into employees' hands, choice could also be a curse if not delivered well, right? If there are way too many choices, how do we make sure that employees are actually aware of what could be applicable, what is actually meaningful to them, right? It takes them a lot of time to be able to, or energy, or can they even figure it out? What is the most meaningful to them? And so I think my perspective on this is that it's really up to the administrator, in this case, Forma. And when we work with our customers, we have a set of the functionality that is related to personalization. So the way that we do it is we constantly collect information from the employees. Every claim they file, we have a debit card program in the system as well. Every card swipe they do, every transaction they place through the Forma store, we learn more about the employees. And we have an AI engine in the background that continues to really bubble up solutions that may be meaningful to the employees. So for example, if an employee purchases a baby camera, right, we will be bubbling up things related to parenting support, new parent coaching, It could be things to be able to support a newborn, things of that nature.
So you're using artificial intelligence rather than real raw decision support
Yes.
with preference matching to characteristics of the supply.
Absolutely right.
Interesting. That's fascinating. We're out of time for, and by the way, if you can do that in the cereal aisle in the grocery store, I will applaud you. One more question for this wonderful panel. If not, we're going to say thank you for a very informative session.
Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.